Once your podcast has been indexed by Google and is viewable in Google Podcast, you can monitor and analyze your listener data on Google Podcast Manager. If you have a podcast and website, which you automatically do if you're hosted with Podbean, you can likely already be found there. Podbean sites are optimized so they meet Google's requirements. Thus, any podcast using the combination of podcast hosting and website from Podbean will automatically fit all of Google's specifications. However, if your podcast is still not viewable in Google Podcasts, Google Podcast Manager makes it easy for you to verify ownership of your podcast and have it indexed by Google. Here's how to use Google Podcast Manager to index your podcast. Enter your podcast RSS feed, then click Next Step. If you're hosted with Podbean, you can find your RSS feed by logging into your account and navigating to Settings, Feed. Also note that your podcast must have at least one episode published in order to proceed. Google will show you a preview of your podcast. Then click Next Step. In order to verify your ownership, a verification code will be sent to the email address that's associated with your podcast. You should receive an email with a verification code. Type in this code in Google Podcast Manager to proceed. If you've logged in using the email address that's already associated with your podcast, Google will not need to send a validation code. Click Submit. Your ownership of your podcast has now been verified. You should also see a message from Google stating we've submitted your show to Google's podcast index. Please note that Google states that the indexing process should take up to 4 or 5 days or longer.